So we're here at Loweb 2012, and you were just on stage.
Yes.
And you were talking about a Kickstarter experience.
Yeah.
And you were working on something that's alternative, right?
Yeah. So we had an idea which is basically like a grassroots TED's kind of like idea where you could say, all right, someone in America is sitting with a lot of knowledge on how you can use everyday household items to desalinate water, and maybe take that to someone in Southern Africa so they can use that to have clean drinking water. And we went to Kickstarter.
The name is FundedByMe?
Yeah, the name is FundedByMe. We eventually got turned down by Kickstarter, and then we went out and the reason why we got turned down is because we weren't American, we didn't have a US bank account. We found some friends who did it for us and pitched the idea, but eventually we still got turned down, and we thought if we don't have access to these tools, we wanted to go out and give the world access to these tools, and we eventually built FundedByMe.
And what is your experience?
Yeah, so we make Lockitron, which is a product which goes over your door lock and lets you unlock it using your phone. And we had been working on a Kickstarter project for months and months and months, getting ready to launch, and we thought it would be just as simple as sending in our application. But around the same time, Kickstarter was having some issues with projects not shipping their product, and they released this blog post that Kickstarter is not a store, and then they basically said, they turned us down. They said, we're a home improvement product, we can't go on Kickstarter. So we decided to do it on our own.
So how do you do it on your own?
Well, we built our own crowdfunding website.
Just for you?
Just for us, to begin with. And so a big part of it, still credit goes to Kickstarter, because they released the back-end code to interact with Amazon payments really easily.
So open source?
Open source.
Really?
Yep.
No.
So we use Kickstarter's open source Amazon payments gem.
Why did they do that? Because they're cool?
Because they're cool, yeah. We still have no beef against them. They were cool, they put the code out there, and we said, cool, we can use this. It made our development a lot faster. We built the rest of the app and the design, and then when we were done with it and we saw it work pretty well, we open sourced it because we didn't need it anymore.
Are there some sites that have code for Kickstarter clones? Nothing to do with that, right? What you used?
Yeah, we didn't. We didn't really look at any other crowdfunding options. We were kind of in a jam with regards to timing. We wanted to get it done really quickly. We wanted, and we had a chip on our shoulder. We wanted to make it our experience. We said, you know what? They rejected us. We can do something better than Kickstarter on our own entirely. So we didn't want to go on another platform at that point.
Success. How big is it?
We raised $500,000 the first day.
First day, 500,000?
Yeah, 500,000 US dollars. And then over the course of the month, we closed at 2.2. And then since then, we've had another 300,000 in sales. So about 2.5 million through our website.
Which blogs were talking about it when you launched?
So we launched at TechCrunch.
TechCrunch?
I think very quickly got picked up by Reddit. And,
Reddit?
Yeah. Internet community did a huge...
Yeah,
which other sites?
was the only one that we launched with. They were the only ones who knew ahead of time, and then everyone else picked up on it. So we were essentially covered by all the main tech blogs eventually, Engadget, The Verge, Mashable, CNET. I think
that helps, no?
Yeah.
The blog's kind of like...
It became a cycle. But it's funny because for the first day or two, people didn't know we weren't on Kickstarter. Like some of the press thought we were doing like a white label version of Kickstarter. They almost reported as if we were Kickstarter. And then the longer tail of press, we started to talk to some people, and they said, so tell us about your Kickstarter campaign. We said, well, we're pretty explicit about it, but a lot of people missed it. We're not on Kickstarter. We're doing this on our own.
So you're not paying 7% the fee?
Yeah, we're not paying the 5% fee.
So you keep the 7%?
Yep.
But there's some fees with who? Amazon?
There's always, payment processors.
How much are they taking?
It depends on credit cards. Yeah, but it's usually between 2 and 5%.
2 and 5%. So are you interested in people being able to... What you're doing, is that people micro-invest?
Yeah, so what we're basically doing is, there's been a lot of talk about equity crowdfunding, and what we've basically seen is that, there's also kind of like that long tail effect. People fall in love once they've done an equity, or once they've done a crowdfunding campaign, but we want to prolong that experience. So we're saying, you can actually take ownership in a company, and then you can be there for the ups, the downs, the struggles, and eventually for the exit.
That can really work.
Yeah, it can.
How can you do a small investment in stuff? Do you need a standard contract? What is going on?
No. The thing is, you don't have to be an accredited investor in order to invest, and based on what the company actually evaluates himself at, they can put a cap on how much you're willing to invest or how little you're allowed to invest. We said, on FundedByMe, the minimum that you're allowed to invest is 15 shares, and that equates to something like $60. $60, yeah. And the maximum that, we didn't put a cap on that, and that ended up being like $150,000 already at once.
And how many people, how much is being invested right now?
Well, we have 2 companies that are live, and we have a total of about $4.5 million, which has gone through the system.
Just for 2 companies projects?
For 2 companies, yeah.
Which are doing what kind of stuff?
Well, one is FundedByMe, because we wanted to obviously learn the difficulties on how difficult it is to actually get new investors on board. Because if you go to a few angels, they might not understand the market, B, they're not that well connected. So we wanted to hand the power over to the crowd and let them validate your idea, see how much traction you can actually get from it, and just being able to be there for the long run.
And the other one?
The other one is a ecological vodka company. Vodka company.
I thought it was a joke when you were
No, seriously.
on the bus. There's really vodka.
Yeah, there's really vodka company. Yeah, these guys have, it's produced in Sweden. They are using, everything is ecological. They have already had their production plant set up. But what they wanted to do is they wanted to get this mass exposure through the brand. So they said, the maximum you can buy is obviously X amount of shares. And from what I understand, they are nearly closing their round. They had been running that for roughly about a month, and they have 77 new investors. And these guys, you can imagine that they are 77 people going out to their closest bar, pub, or, in Sweden they say a Systembolaget, which is like a government organization where you can buy alcohol from, and asking, why aren't you guys actually stocking this? So that word is spreading very quickly.
How much did they raise that one?
They gave away 10% of their company, and they raised 1 million Swedish crowns, which is...
Is that 10% of the company?
That's 10% of the company.
So they valued them 10 million?
At 10 million, yeah.
That's your first customer?
That's their first customers,
And you want to have thousands of customers very soon, no?
Yeah, we
want
to
be big?
thousands
As a Kickstarter? What do you want to do?
Well, Kickstarter is in a total different playing field. They're doing gadgets, and we're putting a big focus on people wanting to be involved with startups and being able to eventually become an angel investor, but you don't have to be a millionaire in order to do it.
So on your site, people are buying the product, right? They're getting perks, something like that?
Yeah, they're
pre-order.
reserving. Yep.
How much does it cost?
For our campaign it was $149, but now we've upped it to $179.
$179, and you have working prototypes you showed?
Yep, we showed off, so we have mechanical prototypes, so it just clicks on the door and then we put the motors in. We have ones demonstrating our chips and our PCBs, and they're pretty much final. We're just getting ready for production.
What kind of chips and PCBs do you use?
So we have a Wi-Fi chip inside of it, and we have a Bluetooth low energy chip.
4.0?
Yep, 4.0, exactly. The latest generation in Bluetooth. And they both talk to, right now we're using an Atmel AppMega processor, which is really cool because you can put Arduino on it if you want. So you can take apart your Lockitron, take out the chip, and load the Arduino libraries onto it so you can hack it in any way you want.
But this, your project is kind of like totally awesome. I mean, what I'm saying,
Thank you.
I mean, shouldn't every single Airbnb place in the world have this and make it work with the people that...
Yes.
So you don't need to give the key to people, right?
Exactly. It's like the old days where you used to give floppies around. Nobody uses floppies anymore. It's all Dropbox. It's same thing. We're doing that for the key.
But which keys are you compatible with?
So right now we started with US keys, so everything in North, South America, and Australia.
What is that key? Is that a standard or?
Yeah.
Deadbolt. Yeah.
You have one that looks...
It's about the lock. It's a round deadbolt, and it's pretty easy to turn. Like Paul was saying, it's U.S., Canada, Central America, Australia, but it's not all around the world.
Not Europe yet?
It's not the UK. It's not a lot of Southern Europe. We're still trying to confirm with Sweden. We need to sense about.
It's not the lock that's easy to
Bump?
It's not the one that's easy to with a hammer.
Bump.
Open
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Is that the bump lock?
Yeah, so this lock is still very popular in the US. It still is in about 80 or 90% of residents. But with Lockitron, if you're renting, you can't, or if you're a renter, you can't necessarily change the locks on your apartment. You have to go to the landlord, and getting him to convince him to buy a $300 bump-proof lock is sometimes not something he'd be up for. But at least if you have a Lockitron, you can put it on the inside of the door and know when somebody comes in.
So which part are you making?
So this is the regular lock.
This how it looks inside, but not this here.
But not
You put
Usually people have this indoors.
Yeah, so usually this plate is an add-on, so it slips between the lock and the door, and then Lockitron mounts on top of that.
So you give people this
Yep.
that they can slide in
Yep, so
without
they just-
having to unscrew
They
anything?
loosen the screws. They loosen the screws a little bit, slide it in, and tighten them back. But
Where do
don't
you
have to
loose?
take it apart. These two screws here.
They're always there, all over the US and all that place.
Pretty consistently, yep.
You loosen it, put it in, and then this is gonna come.
So this fits over it. And then it just clicks into place like
This
that.
is inside your house.
Yep. This is
So
on
you
the
don't need
inside.
to. No,
And from the
people don't
outside,
know that you have a
from the
fancy
outside, it looks exactly like the regular door lock you had before.
So if it's possible to use a hammer, it's still gonna be possible to use a hammer.
Yep, exactly.
Well, can you actually prevent it from opening?
No. So that's the thing is, if you have an insecure lock on the outside, it's still insecure. Conversely, if you have a really secure deadbolt, you can make it electronic now, because a lot of really secure deadbolts are not electronic whatsoever. We have a way of making it securely electronic. So you can choose a lot of deadbolts. You can get a different type of key, very special keys, ones which you can't bump, ones which are difficult to copy, and you can buy those locks, and then you can make it electronic with Lockitron.
Would you have been interested to have people have co-ownership of your company, like or you just growing in that the way you're doing? What are you thinking about this idea?
It's very cool.
Yeah, I think it's a very big space that's going to be taking off.
Yeah.
I think in the U.S. the big news is the Jobs Act that was recently enacted that allows people that aren't accredited investors to sign up for these.
So that's legal. Your concept is legal.
Yeah, the whole concept.
It wasn't before?
It wasn't before, but with the whole Jobs Act, what it allows you to do is basically go out and publicly state that your company is raising money. The way that we do it is we do it kind of like behind a closed community. So essentially it becomes a social network for entrepreneurs and investors connecting globally. And what we want to do is we basically want to become the entrepreneur's best friend and help them raise money through equity crowdfunding.
So what do you think about Indiegogo and all these clones?
Yeah, so I think Indiegogo really is different than Kickstarter. I don't think they're particularly a clone. I think they are their own thing. Indiegogo is very cool because they don't do any filtering. They let anybody go on it. But conversely, that was what we realized after being rejected from Kickstarter is we really wanted to feature our product and our category of products. And that's
So you were considering Indiegogo before making on?
we briefly considered it, but then we thought there's so much other stuff out on Indiegogo, and there wasn't enough focus on what we wanted, and that's their model. And a lot of companies have done very well with it, but we were kind of greedy, and we wanted to focus all of our effort on Lockitron, and that type of product, app-enabled products, Internet of Things products, things that are tech-oriented or gadget-oriented. And so I think had there been a platform oriented for that, we would have very strongly considered it.
And it's totally new. Like 2 years ago, people were not talking about it, or not so long ago, right? It's kind of new. Crowdfunding.
It is. It's very new. Yeah. I think 2012 was the year that made it happen. I talked about that a little bit. If we tried to do this a year ago, like Kickstarter a year ago was nowhere near what it is now, and nor was Indiegogo. So
What is it going to be next year? Is it going to be like huge and everything's going to work on there, and is it going to be like fading out because people? I don't know. There's enough money for everything.
It depends, an asterisk there of like, how many of these big Kickstarter projects which have promised a lot will deliver. I think a lot of them will. We've played around. For instance, Pebble has been a little delayed, but we've played around with their product. It's phenomenal. We've seen it in person. We know they're going to ship soon. Ouya is another example. We haven't seen much from them for a while, but I think a lot of those folks will ship their products eventually. It's just the consumer is adjusting their expectations for it.
And you're definitely going to ship. How do you charge the battery in there?
It's 4 AA batteries.
So how long does it last?
About 6 monds, 9 months or so. So the 4 AA's.
Put new ones in.
And we'll send you a message via text when they're getting low.
And made in Shenzhen? Where's it going to be manufactured?
Made in the USA.
USA?
We're gonna make the first run of them in the USA. So.
Cool.
So it has an aluminum backplate here.
And the first run is how many?
15,000.
15,000.
Yeah. So this is a aluminum backplate
Where in the USA?
A whole bunch of different places. The suppliers are all over the place. So
The final assembly is
final assembly for
California,
is going to be in looks like Texas.
Texas. How soon?
We want to hit our March ship date. So
March.
for our initial batch, and then it continues into April and May.
Cool. All right. Awesome. And even for art stuff, could people have micro investment in a movie and own some of it?
Yeah, they can. We do actually have a movie that's going to go live pretty soon, and for them, what happens in Sweden is there is a lot of money kind of like committed to it already. Once you can get that initial funding and have the script fully funded. So what these guys are going to be looking at doing is actually getting the script funded and then have a pretty high return on investment. Although it is high risk, the people actually know what the the transparency behind it and the risk that they're actually
So
taking.
they get to see the movie? Do they get to own part of it? If it gets sold to cinemas,
yes, they do.
to TV, they will get money back.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
You can make money.
You can
That's the
make-
idea, right?
Well, that is the idea. But for us, what we usually say is money is only a positive side effect. Sometimes you don't need money. Sometimes you need marketing experience, networking experience, and a lot of global exposure.
All right. Are there any competitors to what you do?
Yes, there is. Well, we're the first company who actually does traditional reward-based crowdfunding and equity. But the ones that just do equity is a company called Simbid in the Netherlands and Crowdcube in the UK.
How big are they?
I know that Crowdcube has only had more than a handful of successful projects in the time that they've existed, and I'm not really sure about the statistics on Simbid.
We want to have tens of thousands of successful.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
Next year.
Yeah, definitely. We asked our consumers one particular question when they register on the site, and we said, if the coolest startup were to come along, how much are you willing to invest this year? And over a space of 2 months, that has accumulated to over 52 million euros.
I think the next Facebook is going to be through there, maybe. Okay, but thanks for your time.